was going to explain after, before. He's going to kind of, well, they're notices. Nobody's technically laid off, yes. Remember, the last hires, most of them are bail, unfortunately.
Is there a list of all the people that are
Not their employee numbers, but they know. Probably not at this point after we're going to talk about it. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I am pulling one. I had. That's it. That's the one. I wanted
the answers that they
Yeah, but they
about
never
them?
told me how much they offered.
to offering them? Would it save us more money if
There you go. You
we
think?
offered more?
Yeah, again.
That was my question.
Because
Your
look,
question?
yeah, that's it. Because look, here. Yeah. Yeah, I want that. Yeah, that's exactly my question. See, because look, I know because I went on LAUSD, that's their range. So, you know, even if we went to 100, it's still $200,000 cheaper. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Oh, I want to pull AG, because Principal Jackson made a $900. I hate to sound like not what's his name, Lewis, but I think it's kind of important to acknowledge that.
Okay. So E and G.
Yeah. Look for his continued support. Yeah. Mr. President.
Well, good.
All right.
Challenging to get out from here.
We're either going to sit back right there or we're going to sit back there.
We'll go there. People are going to be standing right here, so you don't want to go over more. You don't want to, because people are going to stand here. So go over there. Just told them not to sit here because they'd be squished.
Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting of the Beverly Hills Unified School District Board of Education will come to order at 5:15. And Mrs. Hacker, would you lead us in the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Margot,
I'll
Second by Mrs. Hacker. Did you second?
Yes, I did, sir.
Seconded, I'm sorry, by Mrs. Korbitov. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Dr. Bragi, a report of closed session action.
The board voted 5-0 to approve the stipulated expulsion for student number 1002935. And the board voted 5-0 to approve the expulsion for student 20001489 for the remainder of this semester and then the fall semester of 2017 with the student may apply to admit back into our school system at the end of December of 2017 for the January 2018 semester.
Thank you, Superintendent Bragi. Before we go into the agenda hearing period, we have been advised that a longtime faculty member of our district, a very respected lady, Susan Stevens, she was our longtime Beverly High School tennis coach, has passed away. She was much loved and respected by all her student athletes and by her peers, coaches, and teachers on our staff. So I will ask for a moment of silence in her memory. Thank you. We are now in the agenda hearing period, and the chair has quite a number of requests to be heard. So we will ask, there's so many here, we'll ask for a 2 minutes for each speaker. And the first one is Mr. Telly Tsay.
Good evening. So I have 2 people who donated time, so this will take about 6 minutes.
Who ceded their time?
Pardon me? I have 2 people who donated, ceded their time to me, so this will take about 6 minutes.
No one would like to make a comment.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Can I hold you up for just a moment? Mr. Margot, I think you have a comment before the hearing period.
I do. As this is not an agendized item, and there are so many of you taking your time to be here tonight, which I appreciate, I thought I'd like to try to make a comment just to maybe calm the room down a little bit, maybe not. But, and everybody is obviously still welcome to speak. I just thought maybe we don't need to be repetitive tonight. I can only imagine the frustration you all must be feeling. Trust me, I feel the same. 3 years ago, this district agreed upon a progressive salary formula to specifically attract and retain quality educators, and it did just that. And here we are asking those same effective educators to step aside briefly or altogether. This isn't right. I get that. We get that. When this board agreed with the staff reductions, we looked at positions, not people. We make decisions based on numbers. The most important takeaway for all of you here tonight in support of these dynamic educators is that neither the board nor our administration can get around state law. The administration can't handpick the staff that gets noticed. The seniority list dictates this. And what dictates the seniority list? Tenure. And we don't create tenure laws. The state does. So I am encouraging, I am a call to arms here tonight to get in touch with our state representatives, Richard Bloom, Senator Ben Allen, and demand that tenure laws be changed. I feel that this is painfully needed to help school districts retain quality educators. Other states in this country are looking closely at this and are beginning to make these changes. The other factor I want to address is the number of layoffs. Most emails that I've received, and I have received loads of them, are pleading with the district to find other ways to reduce spending. I want to sincerely say that we have looked very hard at this. Losing quality educators is always the final straw. It's not as if we have chests of gold buried under the softball field, waiting for people with metal detectors and someone with a lot of time on their hands to cure us of our financial woes. We have looked at and addressed other means of reducing expenditures as well. But as personnel is our biggest expense, it is also the area in need for the biggest reduction. I hope that everyone here can really digest what I'm saying tonight. This is a systemic problem. If we want to retain strong educators, regardless of a budget, then laws must be changed. So I hear you loud and clear, and I will listen. And I hope that we have the necessity to bring these dynamic educators back sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tay, you're up.
Thank you. Dear Board of Education members, district administrators, and members of the community, my name is Telly C., and I'm a teacher at the high school and president of the Beverly Hills Education Association. My statement tonight is dedicated to my colleagues, Jacqueline, Desi, Molly, Melissa, Sammy, Chrissy, Kelly, Chris, Bobby, Lori, Lena, Anna, Andrea, Carla, Annie, Lindsay, Jocelyn, Stephanie, Kelly, Pam, Jill, Michelle, and Sarah. I want the board and district administration to know that I deeply respect and appreciate their time and efforts in dealing with the challenges that come their way every day. The purpose of my statement is to bring attention to the perspective of our educators and to what we can do to resolve the problem before us as we move forward. 3 years ago, teachers and staff filled the Salter Theater at a board meeting to call for salary increases after years of 0%. In calling for such an increase, we stated publicly in this forum that simply by not rehiring for every person who would be retiring that year, we would save over $2 million a year annually. Approximately 20 educators retired that year, including many who had been in the district for nearly 30 years. $2 million. This year could have been the third consecutive year of that $2 million savings. A few months later, in August 2014, I went to the new teacher orientation meeting and met 19 of the new hires. Of those 19, 4 resigned or moved on. Of the remaining 15, 7 received layoff notices last week in this, their third year of teaching in the district. In August 2015, I met another 19 of our new hires. Of those 19, 8 resigned or moved on. Of the remaining 11, almost half received layoff notices in their second year of teaching in the district. Since August 2016, 22 teachers were hired. Of these 22, 3 have resigned or are moving on. Of the remaining 19, 9 have received layoff notices. Of these 9, 2 were hired as intervention specialists for positions created less than 12 months ago, and now the district is proposing to eliminate. Despite our input 3 years ago on how we could generate $2 million in savings per year, the district decided to move forward with hiring new staff. Now, don't get me wrong, we have hired amazing educators, but the problem is this. Now that the district has hired them, what kind of message are we sending to our teachers, our parents, our children, if we set up our newest teachers in the dawn of their career by striking down their faith in their district's ability and willingness to protect and take care of them the way that they have protected and taken care of our kids? I don't want to dwell on the mistakes of the past, not tonight. I want to focus instead on what we can do now to fix this problem of 23 layoffs. What are ways in which the district can make reductions without hurting our educators and staff? For instance, has the district considered reducing contracting and utility costs, services and other operating costs, revising property tax revenue projections, offering a comprehensive retirement incentive, revising book or supply cost projections, revising state revenue projections, sending invoices to every entity that owes the district money? For instance, BHUSD recently sent the district a check for $80,000. That's one job there. How about not creating more administrative positions like the Director of Communications at a cost of $120,000 a year? That's another teacher's job there. What message would that be communicating if we expand administration while eliminating teachers? The point is this. We, the educators, have not been given an opportunity to sit down and to offer such suggestions and feedback, suggestions we have offered in the past and that have been successfully implemented to save jobs. We continue to ask the business department to sit down at the bargaining table with us from beginning to end. This partial list of examples I just mentioned could save the district $1 to $2 million a year every year. I know this because these ideas and actions saved many jobs in 2011. Now, we have taken some steps in the right direction. The board has moved their elections to even years, which will save our district hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mrs. Korbatoff's idea for the district office property to become mixed use could generate millions of dollars in revenue, and that is exactly the type of innovative thinking we need from board members and district administrators. Our approach should not be, how do we prove that a problem exists? Our approach should be, how do we work together as a team to overcome any problems that come our way? Our time is limited. Some of our educators who were issued layoff notices last week have already received offers from other districts. That's how great they are. The district and its educators have accomplished amazing things when the opportunity to collaborate has been presented to us. But that has not happened recently, and the negative consequences have been immediate and far-reaching. Nothing would please me more than to be able to come back here in the near future to speak to how we as a team were able to come together and save the jobs of my 23 colleagues. We always encourage our students to focus and do the best they can. We ask our educators to never give up on themselves and their kids, and now we ask the board and the district to do the same. Have all options been considered? Not just 5 different options at a study session, but all options. Have all stakeholders been consulted? Has the district done every possible thing it can do to save these educators? Until the answer to these questions is yes, we must keep problem solving. We must keep fighting. We are here, the educators, ready to join you in this fight. Let's do this.
If I can read this writing, Carol Cornerza?
I'll be less than a minute. So my name is Carol Cornier. I'm actually here to speak on behalf of my son. His name is Lucas Cornier, and he's a 6th grader at Hawthorne School. So this is for my son. Good afternoon. My name is Lucas Cornier, and I'm a 6th grader at Hawthorne School. Ms. Mulholland was my 5th grade teacher last year. Ms. Mulholland is one of the best teachers I've ever had. When I heard Ms. Mulholland was being cut because of the budget, I could not believe my ears. I'm sorry. I ask that you find other ways to cut money if the district is having budget issues. Please don't get rid of Ms. Mulholland, and please don't get rid of all of our amazing teachers. Thank you.
Sally Greenman? Did I read that incorrectly?
Hello, my name is Zalia Greenman. I'm 6 years old and I am a kindergarten student at El Rodeo in Miss Jocelyn Bresnick's class. I was informed that Miss Bresnick received a pink slip and will be losing her job, which breaks my heart. I fell in love with coming to school, learning and excelling because of her. She has gone above and beyond for each student in her class. I read at 3rd grade level and I do math at 2nd grade level while in kindergarten. She challenges me and pushes me to my full potential. I have received an exemplary score in my report card in all areas tested because of her. These are my early foundation years that are the most important in my development, and a teacher like Miss Bresnick has been a blessing and a precious gift to me. I have a younger sister and a brother who hope to receive the same great opportunity to be taught by Miss Bresnick too. Please, 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 I beg you to let our beloved Miss Bresnick stay at El Rodeo and see me continue to excel and make her proud through the years to come. The decision you make today will impact me greatly and stay with me for the rest of my life. Thank you so much.
That's a future school board member or whatever she wants to be. Ryan Negavood. Thank you. And you are? Got it.
Mr. President, I'd like to begin by recognizing our outstanding Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Jennifer Tedford, for her loyalty to the district, serving as a teacher at El Rodeo in Beverly, and subsequently becoming assistant principal at Beverly Hills High School. She is the only administrator that is actually in touch with the students and their, wants and needs. She's the only one sitting before me here whom I have seen on campus. And I think it's logical to conclude that this is why everyone adores her. As you know, over the past few weeks, her dedication was undermined when Superintendent Breggi, whose time with the district dates back to January, asked her to resign or take a non-administrative position. A vote on this matter was scheduled for last Tuesday in a closed session meeting. However, Dr. Breggi saw that there was nothing closed about it. With passionate teachers, many of them standing right here, explaining to the superintendent her importance as an administrator, and even a petition online that I supported to halt this foolish act. However, we cannot be surprised by these actions. The board is clearly terrified by Dr. Tedford because she does her job correctly and well. She poses a threat to the board's future re-election, so they are eager to oust her whenever they get the chance. With a new superintendent, one would expect a few months at least for him to learn the capability of his key personnel. What we have here is a clear indication of the board at work with its tricks, overreaching their position. Let Dr. Breggi learn how valuable she is. She's the glue holding this district together. Dr. Tedford, do not worry. We know you, we trust you, and we will continue to fight for you. Now, in other news, my calculus teacher, Mr. Berkeley, has still not been given a reason for his untimely dismissal. I am well aware that he is not entitled to one because of his junior status, but he has certainly earned one. It is a manner of human decency that a man so dedicated to the education of your students, your constituency, the people who voted you to those seats, at the very least be given an explanation as to why his tremendous work will no longer be needed. The board is not showing respect or decency to this hardworking faculty member at the high school. Now, Mr. President, I found this dismissal very shocking because I stumbled upon an article on patch.com which I have put before you, which it says, and I quote, "I will provide leadership. It will eliminate wasteful expenditures and fund improvements to the educational program." In the next paragraph, it says, "Margot called for improving the quality of teaching." Yet here you are, after numerous pleas, cutting Mr. Berkeley, and now you are trying to illegally dismiss Mr. Romeo Carey, a tenured faculty member. So my question is, why are board members promising a top-tier education during their election season, but turning their backs on us once they are in office? This is Beverly Hills. Our city is the best of the best, and I think we should be holding our leaders to the same standard. These 5 individuals sitting here, though, do not represent us and have proven time and time again that they do not have our best interest in mind. Your promises are fabrications. They mean nothing. One day after Dr. Breggi assumed his new job, Mr. President, you said, and I quote, I have this article here from the Beverly Hills Courier, It says, the revolving door of superintendents ends here. How about the revolving door of teachers, Mr. President? Once again, I must come before you and explain the issues your board should be focusing on. You lead the board, Mr. President, not me. Stop firing good teachers. And just so you know, it does not bode well for your re-election campaigns when a high schooler exposes you at your own meeting. Finally, as a reminder, students first, students second, and everything else takes a back seat. Thank you, and I yield back.
I have good news for that speaker. When my term of office is over, I'll be 91. I won't be running for re-election. The next, Marla Weiss.
Good evening, Board of Education. My name is Marla Weiss. I'm a math and biology teacher at Beverly Hills High School. I'm also an alumni of the high school, and now I'm a proud, and I'm going to cry because I have a daughter in the district. I'm proud to be a parent of a kindergartner at Horace Mann. Madeline, yay. Madeline's not here. Madeline is happy, thriving academically and socially in Molly Killian's class. My family and I could not be happier with her teacher and her education. And I know that one reason Madeline is thriving is the quality of her teacher. I also know one reason is the quality of education in this district being so high. It is because of the priorities of our Board of Education that they have traditionally had. I teach high school students. I know that in my AP biology class, if I have 25 or 35 students, they are going to succeed. They're that good. The amount of individual however, in my geometry class, the difference between teaching 25 and 35 is huge. The amount of individual attention that can be given to the students who need the extra support is limited. The education is different in my period 1 class with 32 students than it is in my period 3 that only has 24 students. For the primary grades I have learned this year, the education is more impactful. The language arts and mathematics education is the foundation for their success when they get to the high school. Having volunteered in my daughter's classroom this past year, I am awed by Ms. Killian and all of the primary grade teachers. But I cannot imagine Madeline being one of 23 or 24 or 25 students in a class, and even as high as 29 later on. And we all know that the result of cutting 23 full-time employee equivalents is increased class sizes for all classrooms. All of you have children or grandchildren who have gone to or are still in this district. I love this district. I would not send Madeline to school here if I was not 100% confident that she was getting a phenomenal education. I'm proud to be a teacher here, but would you send your... Was that 2 minutes?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll skip. You cannot deny that the education will not be as strong as with smaller class sizes. Add to that the reduction in intervention services, and we are hurting our students, and I'll skip the statistics of intervention. The students who are the clients in Beverly Hills Unified School District should be the board's top priority, not hiring a communications director. The priority of this district should be the classroom, not legal fees for attorneys to sit in on interest-based bargaining sessions. The priority of this district should be graduating high-quality individuals who can function in our ever-changing society. Yet fiscal responsibility also being a concern, and after overspending through last year or so, now you want to make cuts, and a lot of them. And all of your suggestions are coming as close to the classroom as possible. There are no suggested cuts at the district office, only increases. Last year, confirmed on the second interim budget, $4.4 million was spent on consultants. $4.4 million. And yet still no suggestions of cutting spending on consultants has been made. I urge you, please keep our outstanding teaching staff. Reduce staffing with natural attrition and simply reduce spending, reduce administrative costs, and keep students as the priority, and I'm sorry for having gone over. Thank you.
Annette Goldstein.
I don't think I'll go over, but if I I do. I have Belinda Meisteris, 2 minutes. Just off what I wrote down, no, I do agree with you. I'm very unpopular in the teachers' lounge, but I agree that you shouldn't just have a job because you've been here a long time. So I just want to put that out there, and my speech is going to be a little unpopular for some teachers. Apologize. If you know me, you're not surprised. Hi, my name is Annette Goldstein, and I teach kindergarten at Horace Mann. I have come to speak to you about this common practice of laying off amazing teachers and then scrambling to hire other teachers at the last minute. I understand that it may be impossible to know exactly how many teachers you need each year, but it seems to me as if you are unclear of the ramifications of all this overlaying off each year. As an older teacher, I do not need to worry about being laid off. These layoffs do, however, impact me and the Beverly Hills student population greatly. I am a highly competitive person. I want to be the best always. I want to work with the best. I want to work at the best school in the best district with the best teachers. After all, second place is just first loser. And when you send out pink slips, the best teachers find other jobs pretty quickly. I have sat on many interview panels at the district office over the summer trying to fill jobs for the upcoming year. Do you know who was at these interviews? Mostly people who no one else wanted to hire. I remember sitting on a summer interview panel recently and asking if there were any more candidates to look at because the choices were not good. Ultimately, I voted for the least awful of the bunch and was not excited about the choice. The single most important thing you can do to ensure a successful school district is to hire the best and most qualified teachers. Having been in the district for the past 24 years, I have worked with many teachers. And nothing angers me more than seeing an incompetent teacher in a class of children. This is Beverly Hills. The name alone should attract high-quality teachers, and it does. However, when you wait to hire, you lose time after time because the best have already committed to other districts. I know for a fact that the exceptional teachers I work with who have received pink slips have already been looking for new jobs for next year. If they are not available when you decide that you need them, just know that you will be interviewing the leftovers that no other school districts wanted. This is bad for business, and this is bad for me personally because I hate to work with bad teachers. And yes, I'm sorry it's unpopular, there are bad teachers sometimes, just like there are bad doctors, bad lawyers, etc. But when you already have amazing teachers and you are willing to risk losing them because your business office doesn't know how to collect bills or manage money, and you're not thinking clearly. If the teachers you are casting aside if I have to sit on another interview panel this summer to replace the amazing teachers that you are casting aside with bad ones that no one else wanted, I'll be sure to let you know because they are in fact your children, not mine.
Bill Hyatt.
One person has yielded me his time, but I should be able to do it in 3 minutes. Edmund Burke once wrote, "Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Having worked in this district for 34 years, I am acutely aware of how well Burke's words apply to us. We are no strangers to financial crises. Indeed, I can't remember any interval longer than 3 years without some kind of financial menace looming over us. As board members and district administrators, you can't always avoid these fiscal problems. You can, however, learn from our history how to deal with them. One of the things that always puzzled me was how our district could simultaneously claim financial catastrophe and yet find new ways to spend money. At various points when the district claimed it either couldn't keep salaries competitive and/or it had to resort to layoffs, it was at the same time increasing spending in other areas. For example, during one such crisis, it gave the superintendent a 15% salary increase. Another time, it spent many thousands installing a new lighting system that was supposed to save money in the long run and didn't. Then there was the time it spent over $20,000 on a strategic planning effort that mostly became dead letter almost immediately. None of you probably know what I'm talking about. There's a reason for that. On other occasions, the district did spend money on more worthwhile projects, such as new educational programs. But frequently, those programs cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and raise the same fundamental question. If the district has no money, how is it funding all these new initiatives? The problem with these earlier district actions is that they undermine trust between the district and its stakeholders, frankly causing policymakers to look as if they had either lost touch with reality or were not being entirely forthcoming. How are these past examples relevant to our current situation? Apparently, at least one new district office administrative position, a communications director, has been created. I understand that there may be others as well. While we all understand the important job administrators do, in education, the classroom is still where the rubber meets the road. If it isn't happening in the classroom, it doesn't matter what's happening in the district office. Not only that, but reinstituting a position that has no educational impact and that other superintendents have happily cut seems especially inappropriate. Some of you may believe that as long as layoffs are proportional to enrollment declines, they don't hurt the program, but that would be a grave mistake. While we certainly need experience and institutional memory, we also need the new insights younger teachers bring to our campuses. In addition, a district that seems too trigger-happy about layoffs will not attract as many quality applicants when new openings occur, thus contributing to a long-term decline in instructional quality. Keep in mind that California is experiencing a growing teacher shortage and that some districts start their school years with dozens of classrooms manned by substitutes. The good teacher you lay off or scare away today may not be so easy to replace tomorrow. What can we learn from history in this case? When layoffs are a possibility, we need to resist the temptation to spend money on other things, barring emergency. We should be investing every dime we can get to minimize layoffs and preserve our quality staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacob Kim. Do we have? Not here? Sahar Shaulian.
I went to Horseman myself. I went to Beverly, and now my kids are at Beverly Vista. So this is where my heart is. And my daughter's 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Jeffries, got cut. So sorry, I'm really emotional about this. My blessings. This is how she refers to each and every one of her students. But what's important to note is that we were blessed to have her this year. In any school, home, business, there's occasional mistakes that are unavoidable. But this is really a really big mistake if you guys don't rehire her back. We all in this room care about our children. 99% of us are as parents, we live in this district for the quality of the education, not because we want to say we live in Beverly Hills. My husband and I work mad to be able to send my kids, to buy a house in Beverly Hills, to send my kids here. I personally donated $35,000 to the Beverly Vista PTA this year because I wanted to help the school, because I love the school so much. And I am so happy that, yes, each and every one of the students has a computer right now. But when there's no teacher to teach them, what the hell is the point of that? If you're firing teachers by buying the best equipment, which, what are they going to do with that? The most important thing is these teachers. Mrs. Jeffries didn't just hammer in facts and terms into these students, into her classroom. She has helped them improve academically, emotionally, socially. I can't tell you how distraught my daughter was when she found out. I honestly did not sleep Sunday night because I heard that she was let go. And she knows, and we all know that it's because of this whole 10-year thing. And I really appreciate what Noah had to say. And I agree with you, and you did put my heart up, you know, a little bit at ease. But this is not okay. I can sit here and tell you how angry I am, how distraught we all are. But I'm begging you, at least cut out other things, just like I'm not a good speaker. The other speakers before me said, and keep these amazing, amazing teachers. Thank you.
Jen Fenton.
Hi, my name is Jen Fenton. I'm a proud El Rodeo parent, mother of a 2nd grader, 1st grader, and next fall, a kindergartner. I can comfortably and confidently say on behalf of all parent community members that we're all deeply disheartened by the recent distribution of pink slips to our newest and in many ways most valuable teachers. They are the fresh blood this district needs to keep our schools at the forefront of learning and to advance our children's academic experiences. Having said that, I'm also a businesswoman, as many of us are, and I do understand what it is to have financial constraints. So here is what I propose. Let us please table these layoffs for 1 year. The reasons I'm suggesting this is because I know One, the district can afford to do so. And two, I personally know of a handful of teachers at El Rodeo who are planning on retiring next year. As they gracefully leave the district, their empty spots will naturally open up for other, newer educators currently on the pink slip list. During this proposed delay year of action, you could call it, we can bring together all the appropriate unions, administrators, board members, and concerned community constituents to review financials, to review alternative budget ideas, and to brainstorm about next steps. We all feel that your recent decision was made too quickly and without public input. We are a concerned and educated community. We want the best for our children, and we know that good decisions oftentimes take time, innovative thinking, and careful consideration of the current situation. Please, let's bring together the appropriate people and really study the district's financial position over this next year to make the most sound and educated decisions together as a community on behalf of our precious young members. Thank you.
Thank you. Angelia Chirichino.
Good evening. My name is Angelia Chirichino. I'm the mother of 2 children at El Rodeo. Last week it came to our attention that 23 teachers in our school system were given pink slips, many within El Rodeo, a disproportionate amount actually. We know these dismissals had nothing to do with performance. In fact, some of our best teachers are being let go. High-performing teachers, loved by their students, requested by parents year after year. I should know, one of the teachers affected by this egregious act was Jocelyn Bresnick. A loving, innovative, motivated teacher who has ushered both of my children through her classroom. I'm sorry I'm very emotional about this, but this is a very emotional topic for many of us. See, I've spoken to several of you and I've read your comments. You blame the union, you blame a formula, you blame our laws, but what you need to understand about our parents and consequently the people who vote for you is that we don't care about any of that. We care about our children. We care about their education, and right now, you're treating those teachers and our children like they're commodities on a factory floor. Like they're not numbers. None of these people are numbers on a spreadsheet. I'm not an education specialist, but I am an aerospace engineer. I've built a lot of billion-dollar satellites, and I've had a lot of budget problems. And I know that when you have budget problems, the first thing you do is you don't cut your critical components. Because if you do, the bird doesn't fly. Our teachers are our most critical components. And at El Rodeo, they make our little eagles fly. You say you have an enrollment problem. Pulling our best teachers from our school isn't going to help that. Believe me, you have a big PR problem on your hands with this initial step, and you have a chance to fix it. I'm certain there are better alternatives with our budget issues than cutting our educators. If teachers are nearing retirement, we need to incentivize them to do so. If funds need to be raised for other programs, and raise them. We're a very generous group. But you need to rescind the pink slips, not months from now, not weeks from now, now. Teachers can't finish the year under this kind of stress. Asking them to do so is quite frankly inhumane. You should be ashamed of yourselves for making them do so. We're a family in this school district at El Rodeo. Jocelyn Bresnick is my family. You need us, you need our money, you need our kids, we need our teachers. We need you to do the right thing, not the easy thing. Thank you.
Sharon DeHayo.
Good evening. Honorable members of the board, my name is Sharon DeMayo, and I am a parent of 2 El Rodeo students. I'm here today to express my strongest disappointment with your recent decision to pink slip a number of amazing teachers, including Ms. Anna Cohn, Ms. Lindsay Holberg, Mr. Jamie Tinter, and Ms. Jocelyn Resnick, for whom I and other parents in this room could personally vouch. I speak today to encourage you to cancel the 23 proposed terminations, ensuring that the district will not lose some of the most valuable and high-performing teachers in our schools. I believe it is my duty to speak up for the tremendous impact all of these teachers have had on the academic and social growth of countless students. The results, the quality of their teachings, the academic achievements, and frankly, the happiness of students in their charge are undeniable and should be taken in great consideration. Letting go any of these teachers would be a detrimental decision for the district, the city, and for El Rodeo, a school that is already suffering for other reasons. Although the board has a duty to address the district budget deficits, it is my opinion, as well as that of many other Beverly Hills parents, that cutting teachers, valuable ones no less, is a simplistic and short-sighted way to handle these problems. It is a known fact that we are in this situation due to years of questionable management of school funds that is leaving this district in a crisis. Cutting teachers as a response is not a solid or wise long-term solution. By letting go of those teachers, you are not stemming the problem, but you are effectively reducing the quality of the education our children are getting. Many people like us decide to move to Beverly Hills for the reputation of its public schools. What will happen? I have 2 more minutes from another parent, sorry. What will happen when families move out of Beverly Hills due to tarnished reputation of its schools? Many parents and Beverly Hills residents believe that the school district needs to take a closer look at how it spends its money. We elected the current board on a promise of working for the school children, the families, the schools. But the proposed cuts appear to be negatively affecting exactly those, without sufficient transparency, accountability, or community participation. Once again, I urge you to reconsider your decision to fire extraordinary teachers and to think about the long-term consequences that such action would mean for El Rodeo and for all the other schools in the district and for the residents of Beverly Hills. Cutting out well-prepared, high-performing, and committed teachers hardly seems what is best for our school children. Working hard and taking a more responsible look at how the district spends its funds seem a better long-term solution. Consider instead alternatives, such as postponing any drastic decision for at least 1 year in order to take the time to devise a more reliable plan to effectively cure our deficit. Consider making cuts that don't affect directly and so negatively the classrooms. Consider offering reasonable retirement packages that will decrease the number of teachers by natural attrition and not by elimination. Please reconsider your decision.
Tyler Jansen. Is Tyler Jansen here?
My name is Tyler Jansen, and I'm a student at Beverly Vista in Mrs. Jeffries' class. And I have a question. How many students will be in the classes since you're laying off teachers?
I don't know. What grade are you in?
5th.
Pardon?
5th.
5th? Well, I can't give you a specific answer, but I would say that, Pardon me?
It's up to no more than 28.
20
Won't be 28.
29 is the max.
29 is the max.
Okay. Well, when there are more kids in the classrooms, students that are struggling academically have a harder time, and the students cannot help them. The teachers have a harder time helping them because there are more students. So I think you should not lay off teachers, especially my teacher, Mrs. Jeffries. She's a really good teacher, and she helps all of us in our classroom, people who are struggling and people who are very good at school. So less teachers means there may not be as many great teachers like Mrs. Jeffries. Okay, thank you.
Colleagues, I have a number of letters here that repeat exactly what we've heard, and I want to tell you who wrote them. Oh, I have a few more. Pardon me? Okay. So we have a few more speakers. Ellie Samadi.
Good afternoon. I'm Ellie Samadi. A lot of you know me. I have two angels at El Rodeo. One of them is in kindergarten, and the other one is in 4th grade. And I am here basically because my older daughter's beloved teacher, Miss Kramer, is one of those ladies that got the pink slip. When my older daughter, who's an incredibly sensitive girl, found out about this, she came to me and she said, "Mommy, you need to do something. You've promised us that whenever something bad happens to this family, you're gonna go and help fix it and rescue it." So she told me, "You better go to that board meeting and you stop this. So you better answer to my older daughter if you don't do something tonight." I apologize in advance. I'm kind of recovering from another nasty migraine, so my thoughts are all over the place, but I know that tonight is a very tough night. I honestly do not envy your position. I can't even imagine what it feels like to want to cut all these teachers and the special ed programs. But I plead with you to think about that our children on any given day spend more time in school than they do with us. These teachers are the children's parents. So please take that into account. And what kind of environment are we creating with every single teacher that is come day and every single day with such dedication has to look over their shoulder and wonder, am I the next to be cut? That is not a fostering environment, and this is not a place where children learn. I want you guys to think of a time in your life, and we know all have had it, where a teacher came to us and spoke to us and gave us the motivation when you were losing hope, when you were about to do something crazy or stupid or get into trouble, when that one teacher found you in school, came up to you and said, "Tell me what's wrong. What is going on?" Another parent had donated their time. Sorry. I'm a child therapist, and I've spent many years working with SCD kids, and I can't even tell you the amount of times where a teacher has saved a child's life. We all like to live in a perfect world where we don't have problems, but the reality is we don't. We rely on our teachers to help us. I know not only for the children, for us parents. El Rodeo is my second family. I can't even believe, starting from the wonderful Miss Snyder, how many times I've gone into these offices crying my guts out and I'm wanting help. And they all stepped up. Every single one of them stepped up. You know, sorry. You know, I want to talk about, and also another early intervention programs and how crucial that is. I Googled some of the most famous people in the world that had learning disabilities. People like Albert Einstein, Walt Disney, Winston Churchill, on and on and on. At any given time, our teachers, including our special teachers, could be helping one of our future leaders. Please take that into mind. And lastly, I want to say, this is not about you versus us. This is not the way I'm thinking about it. This is about how we can work together as a team. I believe in you. This is one of the richest school districts in the country, and we can't keep our teachers. I'm embarrassed. Please find a way, whatever, find a way to keep our beloved teachers. I have faith in you. I have faith in the board. Find a way we can all work together and not let tragedy happen. Do not fire these teachers. I plead with you.
I'm going to have trouble with the first name, but the last name is Shaw. Villa. It's your turn.
Hi, my name is Beverly Shaw. So those are my boys, first and second graders, and they're starving. So I'm going to be really quick. I was here last week too for the board meeting. So I just had a couple of concerns and questions. First of all, why hasn't the business department provided insight to our financial situation for the school district, or made it public to us where are we short in the money, in which areas, and where are we spending money at, mostly at? So that was my question. The other thing is there are some concerns that the district has not collected all of the money that was owed to the district. That was another thing that I saw reading through the Courier, reading through all the notes from the Beverly Hills Education Association. That was another thing that I found. I think we should at least look at the educators who are retiring and those who are close to retiring, and maintaining or retaining educators that we have now. These are, passionate educators for our students and kids, instead of hiring new educators. The other thing that I wanted to address was why is the school district hiring 2 superintendent assistant and paying, $120,000 to a director of communications position? I mean, these are money that can be put back into the school and keep maintaining and keeping our teachers that are there now, instead of, telling them that they don't have a job by the end of the school year. So that was my other question. Why are we doing the cuts only on educators, not anything else? We really have to take a look at everything that we're trying to achieve. I mean, these are our kids, and we're trying to invest in their future, and it's our future too, because they are the people that's gonna, build this economy the way it should be. I mean, do we want Russia or China to be first place? I don't think so. That was it.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have these communications from additional people who, pardon me? No, who have stated the same concerns that you have heard, and they are from the Arnson family, Kimberly Combs, Azzy Faramand, Lisa Suryasat, Ann Anushian, Jason Morgan, Minnie Neiman, Allison Bronson, Amanda Giray, and looks like Dashiell Weissman. And one more who wishes to go on record, Lynette Ambrosi. So with that, the agenda hearing period is closed. Thank you very, very much for attending and for letting us know your feelings. Thank you. We are at the We're going to continue our meeting, please. We are at the consent calendar. Mr. Margot,
I got it, I'm ready. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus items E and G.
Thank you, Mr. Margot. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. That's approval with the exceptions of E and G. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item...
I'll move to approve on the consent calendar, item 8E, approval of the amendment to the MedScan master contract.
I will second that.
Okay, Mr. President, I had pulled that item. I had inquired, and apparently maybe some of my board colleagues had had some of the same inquiries, and I do appreciate Dr. Breggy and staff with regard to some of the responses. What I hope isn't the $64,000 question, but the question that was asked, what was the amount of salary that was being posted for this position? I understand there's 4 applicants or candidates that that we looked to hire that didn't take the position. What was the dollar amount that we were flying the position at?
We believe it was in the $140,000 range.
That
But
much.
I did ask, when I got your question back this afternoon, I did send that off to John Hess to find out for sure what that dollar figure is.
Okay, so, all right, so without judging the amount, it seems like a fairly appropriate amount, and 140, because that's interesting, because I know LAOSD's ranges somewhere between 70 and 90. So we were almost $50,000 hot. I'm talking the Metascan, the one for the speech pathologist. Okay. Oh, okay, let's take 2. I'm dealing with item E, which has to do with Metascan, which has to do with trying to retain a firm at what will now be a cost of $300,000 to do what a former speech pathologist used to do. I sent a request to know how much the position was posted for, because apparently 4 people didn't think it was enough, at least 4 qualified people. So I just heard 140, but that's incorrect.
No,
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
how,
It is on the teacher salary schedule.
which would be, okay.
Which would be wherever they came in with their
Well,
education
that's why
level.
I sent a inquiry first thing Monday morning.
And I believe that we
And I never
submitted.
heard back. Can somebody give me an approximation? And I'll tell you the issue I'm having. Let's assume that on the salary schedule, is it before us here?
Yeah,
Do we have it here?
I responded in a memorandum. Michael, you responded last night
This
to
one?
answer questions. It was
So
all
if we do
included.
Yeah, so if we're hiring somebody without any experience, it'd be a little over $50,000. If we hired somebody based on their experience, it'd be commensurate with their experience. Not the heck of a lot of money compared to what other districts, no matter where you come in on for a specialty position like this, that ultimately costing this district $300,000 to man. I find it a little problematic that we wouldn't have found a way for the specialty position to come in at the 100. When I heard 140, I'm thinking, okay, that seems reasonable. but that's not the case. We've probably posted for about a third of that,
Well,
or half.
Mr. Goldstein, I think the other missing question is, are we supplementing the equivalency of one or multiple for the district when we for the services, for the Metascan services? Could that work be done by one, or would it need to be done by two or three? I'm guessing the answer will not come forth tonight.
I'm not
Well,
sure
at
of the
least-
answer to that question.
The way the transmittal read, it seemed like we were replacing the one individual that was doing this job, who I'm very aware of whom. Yeah, if you would, please. But see, my frustration.
Typically, there's one speech pathologist. When one of my children was receiving some services, there was one. There is a known shortage of speech pathologists. A lot of them are going into private practice because it's more lucrative. And I'd like to say that I think it would be helpful if we had a menu of what the real going rates are in competing
Well,
districts
I
so
can
that,
tell LAUSD has range of 74 to 91,000.
well, then why would we
That's
offer 50?
No, well, that's kind of.
See, so
why.
that's
That why-
self-defeating.
And then is the 100,000 for the contract amendment for that same amount of services that we would get for one person? That's why I'm asking.
And the benefit of one person, as you can well imagine, is they get to know the child, and they get to know the family, and they get to know the teachers, and this is just
Yeah,
outside
and
services, it's
I didn't
not the
want to
same.
pile on, but when we're looking at making cuts of staff, and hopefully those staff members will be rehired, we'll see where it gets us. But every dollar, when I look at something like that, is really problematic. And what I'm hearing is that position probably got flown somewhere in the neighborhood of the 50, 55 range, 60, somewhere. I mean, nobody can give me an answer, and I asked for it 2 days ago. And you sit here today, and I'm not trying to harp on you, but these are the type of things that when people who pay attention to this, and we're trustees, look and see what we're doing, they go, it looks crazy. I'm a trustee, and it looks crazy. So
I just want to make sure
how-
I'm understanding your
yeah.
question. So, because I just looked, and so Dr. Hess has reported back
so-
the same thing, that it's, that if it's on the teacher salary, that many people in that position can go somewhere else. So, I mean, there are ways around that. We could identify those hard-to-fill positions.
That's my point.
Right.
My point, really,
Well, that's
and
what I'm
really,
saying.
ultimately, I'm going to assume that we were markedly lower than, let's say, even LAUSD.
Right.
So the point is, why can't we then repost this position almost immediately at a much higher rate, so we don't have to spend spend the 100,000 and ultimately spend 300,000 a year to do something that one person can do? Yeah, and that's really my question.
I mean, we do have the authority to, like positions like this,
Yeah.
to single them out because they are hard-to-fill positions.
Right, it shouldn't be
and
just an incoming step one category.
There are
position.
several positions like a speech pathologist that would also fit into that same category. So
All right,
we
just
can absolutely do that.
Yeah, okay, that would be my preference, to see how that goes versus, now, with that, we absolutely, we have a contract with Metascan. They're providing somebody right now. What do we have time, or can we post a position at a higher rate and see if we can get somebody in the next few weeks versus entering into this contract and actually get somebody for what I would consider for a year versus just a few months, or?
And I'm not sure where we are with that.
Yeah.
The positions that we have right now are positions that are for leaves of absence for 2 of our current speech pathologists. In the certificated agenda, you can see that we've hired a substitute that retired from last year at her regular rate. And so what we're trying to do is determine if we still have those services, if we will need the rest of those services for the rest of the year. So Mr. Hess was trying to determine that, but it was my understanding that he was just trying to fill back for the people that were absent this year.
Okay, so he's trying to backfill. Would, you, Ms. Mendoza, you handle HR. Do you believe if the superintendent so desired to look at this position and give it a higher rate, we would actually find somebody currently? There were 4 people that wanted to take the position. I'm sure you can't negotiate the price. We set a price, that's
Right.
it. If there are 4 people, they must have been available
Absolutely.
maybe we can.
Mr. Goldstein, I
Yes.
think might be prudent for just now, if we, I'll withdraw the motion, we'll table the item and come back on the, and let the staff get the answers to the questions.
I
to
agree.
dig into this a little. Yeah, I mean, I'm just,
I agree.
is there, I
I
mean.
think our immediate concern is on the agenda, Mrs. Korbutov, is on the certificated agenda.
So we're taking care of the immediate concern by
immediate
hiring the
concern, right,
substitute
right,
speech and
right,
pathologist,
right.
so we can pause on this contract.
Right.
For the, okay, then I'm,
Till the
you made the motion. Henry.
I'll withdraw my motion. I'll make, who, second?
I did, I'll accept that.
Okay.
You want to table it?
Yeah, I'll move to table item E.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion to table item E.
Yes.
Made by Mr. Goldstein, seconded by Mr. Margot. Any further discussion? Superintendent?
Nothing further on that.
Okay.
But I will make sure you get the answers to that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. And now item
G, I'll make a motion to approve the acceptance of donations listed pursuant to Board Policy 3290.
I'll second. I had pulled that. I just wanted to acknowledge on that, that's our donations to the high school. And I would like to recognize Principal David Jackson, who made a $900 contribution to the vocal music department. I want to thank you for that. With all the hours you spend here and everything you do, the fact that you actually take money out of your own pocket to contribute to our program should be honored and recognized. So I want to thank you for that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. And that brings us through the consent calendar. And we are, I think, into reports, are we not?
Yep.
Superintendent's report, Superintendent Brady?
So it's been a great week for our students. We had students from Beverly Vista that were in Carnegie Hall, and they are home safely just before the storm hit New York. Dr. Tedford and I attended the Honor Band Orchestra concert and band concert last night. Every 15 minutes was an absolutely life-changing event. And if you haven't had a chance to see the new YouTube video, it's incredibly moving, and I've shared that, and it's certainly going to go viral. It's just so good and produced so well with such an important message. The students that just finished such a successful production of the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee was clearly one of the best productions I've ever seen in my entire career. And all of those celebrations are coming to a little bit of a break at the end of this week. This is a very well-deserved break for our students and our staff with spring break starting next week for 1 week.
Thank you, Superintendent Brady. Mr. Schwartz, do you have a student board member report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Spitz. I don't want to be repetitive because I think everyone that spoke earlier was eloquent and effectively conveyed their points. But I just want to say this, like what just happened, seems to be a common occurrence. As in, for the 3 years or so that I've been attending board meetings, this seems to happen annually. As in, teachers are laid off, there's pink slips going out, there are disruptions in the classroom, and we get a large crowd here that tries to convey a point to the board, and each year it just keeps happening. So it seems like perhaps nothing is being done. So I think that overall that's indicative of maybe a bigger problem, in that if this same cycle has to happen every single year, at least that I've been here, maybe I'm just cynical because the years that I've been here have been particularly rough. But if this same cycle of breaking hearts and disrupting classrooms and getting rid of quality educators has to happen every single year, then maybe that's not a viable long-term plan. And we have to, as the board, we really have to look into how to fix this issue, not have it reoccur every single year with teachers coming here and expressing their opinions and emotions, because this clearly wasn't the most happy of, the most happy of all talks that we've had. But we should be looking towards other options instead of teachers, of course. Teachers and student programs, educators should always be last on the list of what we focus on cutting, and especially just in tandem with, I know that there's the new creation of the communications administrative position, and although I see how that might be necessary, given the circumstances, I think teachers first. But again, I don't want to be too repetitive, so I'll leave it at that. Also, I just want to, on a completely different note, I want to echo what Dr. Breggy said. There are lots of groups here that are worth commending at our schools. The musical was obviously fantastic. Everyone that saw it will agree, I think, I hope. And girls basketball won CIF, so that was exciting. We have junior senior night tonight, right now actually, at the swim gym. So seniors, juniors out there, you should go. And of course, everyone's looking forward to spring break. So,
Thank you.
Sam, do the seniors have a chance without you, if you're sitting here? Okay.
We're into item 10, Business and Finance. Superintendent Brady?
And Ms. Carter will lead us through the second interim budget.
Did you have the hard copies of your report?
There should be hard copies in front of you.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Thank you. I apologize in advance if I'm not my normally bright and perky self. I don't feel as well as I normally do. So forgive me in advance. Tonight, we bring to you the second interim financials. I just want to just review. We do the adopted budget in June. In the fall, we certify the salary increase. We certify property taxes in October. This year, we went up 0.8% more than, not 8%, 0.08% more than what we had originally budgeted in June. In September of every year, we get the unaudited actuals. We try to come up with the best estimate of where we're going to end in June. It is very important. We take a lot of time on that, because the closer we get to that ending fund balance, the less money we would have to cut, or our financials are that much more sound. But we do close the books as of the middle of August is when we close the books on the prior fiscal year, and our new and revised assumptions. The first interim financials, which you received in December, I think it was December 12th or 13th, when you received them in 2016, are as of October 31st. There's a 1.5 month lag of when you receive them, when they're presenting to you, when they're due at the county, but they're based upon the cutoff of October 31st of every year. There, we also look at the try to look at the second certification of the property taxes, any revenue and expenditure changes. Actually, that should be down. Now, I present to you the second interim financials, which is as of January 31st of this year. As you can see, we're in March. Again, another one and a half month lag before they report it. It's required by law. Again, it just sees if a district is doing well, if they have budgeted well at the state level. We, if we were in trouble, which we're not, luckily, this is a positive certification. If it were a qualified certification or a negative certification, there would actually be a third interim report that is due, and that is due. I have only had to do it a few times in my career when I was in a struggling school district, but luckily we do not have to do that. Feel free to stop me at any time. If you have any questions. So the second interim from adopted budget, our expenditures went up a little bit more, 2.4 million. Our revenue went up a little bit more, 2.4 million. The most of that is from the sale of the Doheny house. Most of that additional revenue there. Our expenditures went up a small amount from first interim, from 68 million to 69 million, and I'll go into the detail on the next slide. As you can see, we are still deficit spending by $4 million, which is very concerning. It's going to be concerning to LACO as well. We did pay off the loan. That transfers out of the 1 million goes into our Fund 17 budget. That's the 1 million, but we did pay off the loan for the house. That's an expenditure that you see there that popped it up, rather than what we had originally budgeted. We right now anticipate unassigned unappropriated of 1.18 million. Hopefully we stay true to budget. We actually reduced expenditures that we knew we weren't going to spend. My director fiscal and I, we try to go through every line of budget for these reportings. We have approximately 6,000 lines, account codes, but we try to go and see if they're true to, if the budget is true to the expenditure pattern. So in revenues, we had the total revenue change of 2.2 million. Like I said, it's detailed here. Just a little bit of increase in lottery, a little decrease in federal, and then the Doheny sale. Yes, sir.
Did you invite us to ask questions as you go along?
Yes.
With regard to the expenditures that are forecast, 69,180,000.
Yes.
In the second interim for that's for this current.
That's for this current year.
I see.
There's another slide over for
Okay.
the multi-year.
Thank you.
So this year we're anticipating to spend
Okay.
69.1 million.
No questions, sir.
Okay. There were a few tweaks to expenditures, actually down. We saved a little bit of money in the certificated. Again, managing that budget, just squeezing out every dollar that we think we're not going to spend and dropping it back down to the bottom line, from leaves and resignations, positions filled by subs. Classified, same thing. We have quite a few vacancies. We have quite a few employees that where their positions are filled by subs, again on leave without pay, FMLAs. Our statutory benefits went up a little bit more. That 271, we had to adjust the budget for the SERP. We hadn't put enough money in there once we got the bill, as well as just increase in benefits a little bit more. You see just a little bit more in books and supplies, 65,000. We did take a reduction in services and operating expenses. we actually reduced the tech contract that we have with the city. We also reduced some of the other contracts that we had that actually moved back up into salary. So again, just more budget refinement. And then we paid off the house debt, the debt of the Doheny House. And then we were able to transfer $857,507 to Fund 17.
Ms. Carter, may I ask a question?
Yes.
This is mainly pertaining probably to the previous slide. But with that $1.1 million that was just spent paying off the house, so that's not going to be a cost coming back next year, right?
Right.
So would it be reasonable to say that the deficit is looking to be around 3 million instead of, no?
No, the house payment was scheduled for almost 30 years. I think we had about 27 more years to pay on it. So the actual annual cost that we had budgeted for the house was $130,000 a year was the actual annual payment. But since we sold it, we paid off the entire thing. So really what we save is about $130,000 in the annual budget.
All right, thank you.
The governor
I do
came-
have a question about that, actually.
Sure.
So the change for after you paid off the loan of the house and the expenses, went back to Fund 17? Why Fund 17?
We didn't want to, it was agreed upon, I think I talked to the board about it around the time of the sale back in December, that we would put the proceeds in Fund 17, not into the general fund for regular expenditures. If the board wanted to allocate that $857 somewhere, we could, but it's just sitting in our reserves.
Thank you.
But I remember it was an actual discussion, I think, that we had, maybe it was at first interim, but there wasn't a discussion about it.
Well, I understand it's just a one-time, it's revenue, it's just one-time revenue.
It's just, and that's why it's in Fund 17. The board could decide, and I can, if directed, I could bring it back for allocation if you wanted to allocate it to an expenditure source.
I think, from my point of view, it makes no difference to me whether it's thrown into Fund 17 or thrown into the general budget reserve. The only thing is that we should realize that over the period of time that we had that house, we spent about a total of about $500,000
in total.
Paying down the mortgage and other other expense maintenance or whatever, and netted. Really, if it was thrown into the general reserve, it would be offsetting those expenditures we made over about a 3 or 4 year period.
Yes. We bought the house in 2011.
But again, I see no problem with leaving it in 17.
As I go into the multi-year, actually having it there is a nice push for the upcoming year, and that gets us into where we have to go in terms of not reducing as much money as we needed to reduce at this time. Because we're basic aid, the governor's budget that he comes out with in January doesn't actually have that much impact to us. We did receive a little bit of one-time funding from the governor's budget, $48 per ADA, which ends up, and it's discretionary. It's not allocated to any source. So we normally just put that back into the budget. This year we had definitely more per ADA of non-discretionary funds from the governor. I think we had how much per ADA? $214 per ADA this year. So you'll see our revenue go down in state, but again, it's still good to be included. One of the areas that are impacting other school districts, and I want to talk about is, even though we're in our bubble here in Beverly Hills, other school districts are experiencing significant reductions. The K-12 COLA is 1.48%. Many school districts have already are at full funding for the LCFF. Remember, the LCFF that was created several years ago set a target revenue limit for different school districts depending on their different populations, and many of them are fully funded now. They experience very significant increases similar to ours, 5%, 7%, some even received 9% because they were growing. But once they get to full funding, all they receive is COLA. And those districts who had experienced those significant increases, and many of those districts actually hired and gave salary increases on those large increases to build up to that LCFF. Now that they're approaching full funding, and they're anticipating that all school districts will have full funding for LCFF by 2021, you're seeing reductions. Montebello cut 252 positions. Santa Ana cut 287 teaching positions. Anaheim cut 78 teaching positions. I met with the South Bay CBOs. Every last district, Manhattan Beach is cutting certificated teachers, and you'll see more because once you're at full funding, all they can count on now is COLA, no additional funds, which for us, I mean, we are really lucky. We're very fortunate to be in basic aid, and even to be able to count upon a 5%, 4.5% increase is significantly more than our K-12 counterparts. CTE was funded as promised by the governor. Our amount is $216,666. As you remember, this grant was a step-down grant. We received 50% the first year. This year we receive 75% of that, of the grant, of the 325. And then, so our general fund match goes up every year. Next year it'll be a little bit less than CTE funding. Our general fund match will go up. Additionally, I mean, when we started it was 625, but with salary increases, our general fund match actually goes up higher than what the 625 were. As a condition of taking that grant, we need to maintain that CTE program pretty much intact for the next, we have 4 more years on it. But it is something that we want, that I'll keep bringing to you, because as we look at CTE, not that I want to cut programs, but you want to look at CTE as well as your electives, and how you match those things up. The increase in CalPERS rate for the governor's budget was huge. They sent us the state sent surveys out. CalPERS realized that its investment earnings were not going to reach the potential that they thought. They were estimating their investment earnings at 7.4%. They knew they weren't going to get there, so they were being responsive, but the buck actually passes down to us. So where at first interim, as you can see, we were already getting increases annually in CalPERS rates. They have signaled that the CalPERS rates will actually go up even more than what we had anticipated. So you can see at first interim where they were and where they are anticipating that we are for the CalPERS board lowering their investment earnings outlook. I remember I was thinking back when I first started in school districts, the highest CalPERS rate that had ever been paid in the state was 13.02%. That was the highest, and it sent everybody to a tizzy, and the state actually gave you money. Before that, the highest had been 8%. So they gave you the difference between 8 and 13.02. Yolanda's shaking her head because she's an old timer like me. And so, I mean, you never actually had to feel the sting of a higher retirement rate, which we're feeling now. They did take that money back if we didn't need to pay it. And there were times when when the earnings were so good in the .com era where we paid 0% towards our retirement. It was 0% out of budgets in the early 2000s. But as you can see, we're not here now, and the increase in our retirement, our contribution to retirement is a definite impact to our budget. CalPERS did, yes.
The extra money we got from the House, I had mentioned maybe we should do an OPEB again, pay it down, because it's just you pay so much more later on. It's just.
The board may, I can bring, like I said, if directed, I could definitely bring that forward. And that's what we had, when we first started the OPEB, that's what we said we would do.
We're gonna do it every year.
Well, we said we would try to, until we got our budget stable, we would use one-time funds to try to pay it so that we didn't erode off Fund 17. But this was a one-time funding that we, again, and if directed, I will definitely bring it back, because that's what I was just about to say. Because CalPERS reduced their investment earnings, we will reduce our investment earnings for our next actuarial report. So you'll see our actuarial number go up. It will go higher than what we had last time you saw it 2 years ago, because we will reduce our investment earnings potential as well. So yes, like I said, if directed by the board, I will bring it back to fund the OPEB. I know our finance committee would be really happy. It's just sound financing.
I just would like to say that there are two sides of this coin, and that is that what you pay reduces our reserve.
Yes.
And that has to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely. And our reserves, when I go further into the presentation, without significant continued machinations in the budget, our reserves will erode.
But, Mr. President, isn't part of, there's actually three sides to this, because if we don't start to pay it down and we keep on kicking it down the road, it then starts to encroach on our general fund. So although we may not have a big problem now with OPEB, down the road, it can, I think the Finance Committee mentioned 5 years from now, you're talking $3 to $5 million encroachment on an obligation, a commitment that we can't get out of, and we will be paying $3 to $5 million down the road. And maybe not this board, but another board. You think it's tough now? I would hate to be that board sitting there, unless you're planning to run for re-election again. Then you can deal with it. But that's something that we do need to get a handle on.
I'm not that optimistic.
But
Would you like her to bring it back, as I certainly.
well, I would like for us to get a handle on our finances and
Right.
see ultimately where we wind up, and then what's available, because all we're doing is putting a problem down on somebody else who sits there, whether it's Mr. Schwartz in a few years or somebody else. We have to be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah, that money may be worth a lot more to us in putting it into OPEB than staying in the reserve, and we just need to know that.
For right now. What we
Yeah.
did the last time, as you recall, we decided to fund that OPEB in late June, right after we went through all of budget planning, for that very reason, to see where we would be. Then we decided to fund it in June, and it actually, even though we didn't pay it out until the following fiscal year, we credited against that prior year. So we can make that decision, like I said, as we go further down, because we still have quite a bit of budget planning still to do for 17-18.
Right.
The assumptions that we use, how we build the budget, how we build our multi-year projections, we're budgeting revenue property tax at 5% next year, and the following year, which again, this is the crystal ball that we don't know. We don't know what LA County property taxes will come in at. We are forever cognizant that our property tax increment is not based upon Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills may be growing and robust and not declining, but our revenue is based upon LA County wide. So it's based on what's going on in Downey and what's going on in Lancaster and Antelope Valley, and the average of all of that is the formalized version of all of that is what our increase will be. We have been in the multi-years, 1920, 2021, and 21-22, I have it right now at 4.5%. We have been not invited, but we have said that they have said we can request an invitation with the LA County Assessor's Office, and they would share with us confidentially their forecast for the multi-years, which when I get that meeting, when we are allowed to have that meeting, it'll be helpful to me, being the only basic aid district in Los Angeles County, forecasting that multi-year revenue, because that's a huge piece. If we were a regular school district, there are people that tell them, you're gonna get this much money, and their dashboard goes out to 4 or 5 years. We don't have that luxury, so it really is kind of stabbing in the dark based upon trend and things like that. We have based upon that revenue increment, we have calculated the salary increase based upon the current collectively bargained contracts, 2.388 next year, 2.726 in 18-19, and so forth, 2.786%, 2.562, 2.610% in 21-22 is what, based upon the AV and your collectively bargained contract, that is what the salary increase that is.
all in? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, that is not all in. That is just based upon the formula. Remember, the formula is not, does not include large portions of compensation. It doesn't include the increase in benefits, in statutory benefits.
So what is it closer, is it double the number, or is it 20% more, 40%? Is there?
It's about a little under 30, probably about 25-30% more. Because we don't have step and column in there. We don't have, again, the increase in current year STRS and PERS. The formula takes into account prior year. But remember, every year we're going up.
Going up.
In STRS and PERS.
So
It also doesn't include health and welfare benefits, which we pay to all employees, whatever our portion, the $8,500, and it doesn't include any, like in the current year, increases in staff. So if the staff increases, they're getting the salary increase, but they're not included in the formula. So there's large portions that are left out of that formula of total compensation.
Ms. Kerr-Carter, Ms. Kobertov, are you concluded?
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Kerr-Carter, when you say percentages, just ballpark, and I can't believe I'm the guy looking in the cushions for cents and talking dollars and cents in this meeting today. But what does that translate in actual dollars? The all out, as you say, we're not all in the salary formula. Let's just, because we have to have this discussion, and it's important people hear this. So what does that translate with regard to actual dollars, approximately?
You know, do you have the spreadsheet handy? We actually have it, we actually calculated it out.
Well, I know you did, so what,
But I
that's
don't know
what you
it off
told
the
us.
top. I don't know it off the top.
Angela, do you have a ballpark? No, I can't. Mr. C, do you have any idea? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have any idea? You don't have to, if you don't, I don't want you to guess. Okay, because that would be important, to give it a real dollar amount. And the reason I bring this up, when school services presented to us, they talked about formulas. There's been a lot of talk about the formula and why the formula is good, why the formula is bad, why the formula is not so bad. You know, it runs the gamut right now. We need to have an honest discussion about that. School services talked about it, and they said there's nothing inherently wrong with a formula. There are a few, not many, but a few districts that actually have salary formulas. However, those salary formulas are all in. So it would take that 2.388%, and then you start taking whatever that
Mr.
dollar
Goldstein,
amount.
I think it'd be appropriate for you to explain what you mean by all in.
Well,
Maybe some people might not understand that, right?
She just explained it.
I know we understand. Well, I might
She
have
just
left. I
explained it.
apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. She
I might
actually
have
ran through
left.
it.
Yeah, because that might be confusing.
And I understand the categories, and that's great. I think it's more important to know what the dollar amount is, because when you see salary increases 2.388, you know, that translates to an amount. When you talk about all in, that translates to amount. Other districts that have a formula, and there's nothing inherently wrong with a formula, but it's the way we're doing it to some extent. And I know this is for negotiations, and how it gets worked out, that's between our district negotiation team and our labor partners. But we need to have an honest discussion about what this formula actually means and does to this district.
I think the other thing to point out, just as a precursor to what you said, if I may, is that The study did show that, back to the study from School Services of California, was that they did say that there was no other basic aid district with a formula. I think that's important to recognize as well.
Correct.
Yeah, there's no other basic aid district that has a formula. There are formulas out there, like you said, they do talk about that. There isn't one, though, that's tied to assess valuation. So, I mean, of the few that are out there, I would like to look at them personally.
And the reason I bring this up, and it's important that everybody seems to understand, we have a formula, other districts have a formula. We're the only basic aid district that does it. But there are components to this formula that are not contained in the other formulas. There's other aspects of those formulas that contain, as you call, the all-in, that we don't do. So we have to understand that and really honestly address that. So that's an issue for negotiations. I just wanted to comment on it because it is important when people say, well, it's not the formula. Well, true, as the formula is, it's not an issue whether we have one or not. It's how it impacts this district because we're basic aid. So I just wanted to make that clear.
I think your point is well taken, and I have a suggestion. Ms. Kirk-Carter?
Yes.
Would it be possible for you, because this is important for us to understand and also for our constituents to understand and all the stakeholders of the district, would it be possible for you at our next meeting, and I understand that the second interim will already be history, but could you, for our next, at our next regular meeting, present an additional sheet that will show the all-in dollars so that we can understand that and everybody will? Could you do that?
Yes.
Right, and I just want to make it clear to everybody listening, that's also, the salary formula is one component of a much larger financial condition, and a lot of comments about how we reduce and where we cut, whether it's administratively, whether it's other areas that can be looked at, and we heard some of those comments today. Mr. C, I don't want to usurp your presentation, but is there anyone that can comment on this point? I don't know. And I don't want, Mr. Kirk-Carter, if you wouldn't mind, because
no,
we want to have an honest discussion about this, and it's important.
Public comment. I don't want to break into this.
Could you come on the mic, please, if that's okay, Ms. Kirk-Carter?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. I do have a comment, though, as
Could you introduce yourself to the audience? Thank you.
Elena Castanon, a certificated unit member, Beverly Vista STEM teacher. And I did just have a comment as I'm following along on the multi-year budget assumptions, and as we're talking about increases in salary costs, there is a cost associated with increasing salary, and I do agree with you. I think that seeing an actual dollar amount really helps us to conceptualize like what that looks like as we're looking at a total budget. I think that it really helps to contextualize what a percentage means. And this conversation of all in, and my understanding of a lot of these all-in costs includes things like CalPERS, and those things are outside of all of our control. And there were a couple comments made that there's additional costs in health and welfare. As far as I'm aware, in studying our budget or looking at our contract, I don't believe that we have any increases to health and welfare coming up. So I don't think that that is really a point that I'm comfortable with that sitting and resting in this public sphere, because I don't find that to be an accurate statement. Negotiations, of course, are not over. We're very well aware. So perhaps there could be an increase to health and welfare or insurance benefits or something like that. But at this time, we're at a constant rate, and so I think that that number is known and is not projected to increase until negotiations are concluded.
Great, thank you.
So, and we'll do a comprehensive spreadsheet for you for next board meeting.
Great,
but
thank you.
in 17-18, for example, With the formula, the amount of money that is allocated towards a formula for all employees are $1,083,000. When you include all the salary components, net, it'll cost us 1.668. So with the formula, the amount that they get, that we put into the formula with the 2.388, that amount is $1,083,655. But when we add in all the other components, the increases, the benefits, the increases in the step-in column, we will spend in salary increases next year 1.6 million. So it's about 600,000 outside of the formula.
Great, thank you.
So almost double.
So together, 1.6 is what you're saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And which I could have included, I should have, is we receive, that's 1.6 that we'll be paying in salary increase, but we get in new money. Here it is right here. Our new money for 17-18 is 1.9 million. So we're estimating new money for 17-18 of $1,970,283, and we'll be spending it, whatever that number I gave you for total compensation, the $1,606,000 is what we're just spending on salaries. That does not include our increases in workers' comp, property and liability, consumer price index, whatever. That's the portion of our that we're using of our new money. So we have a little under $300,000 left in new money to pay for everything else.
Well, and if just approximately 77% of our expenditures are on people, the other 23% are on programs and things and whatnot, maintenance and attorneys and everything else, services. So,
Yes.
so it could get significant.
Oh, it does get
Yeah,
significant.
yeah.
That's why you're upside. That's why your deficit
Well,
spending.
I understand that. We need an honest discussion about that with accurate, good numbers, so everybody's on the same page looking at that and can agree on those numbers. Otherwise, we're going to have a very difficult time moving forward.
Yes.
So thank you for taking the time to do that and putting some context to that, because it's important.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, if you're deficit spending, how do you pay your bills and how do you keep giving salary increases?
Well,
Reducing you're using up your reserve.
Well,
You're
but you
digging
need a
into your
percentage,
reserve.
I understand the mechanics, I'm just saying, how can it be legal for a school district to deplete their savings
Oh, it isn't.
Well, it isn't legal.
and to deficit spend, basically by therefore then depleting your savings, and then to still give all these
You won't be-
increases or, start new initiatives like textbook, any sort of outrageous expenditures. I don't say outrageous, but large.
So I can answer that question with the multi-year, exactly what you just said. So as you recall, we did take some reductions in 16-17, which, if we didn't take those reductions, we would be in much worse shape. Remember, I told a salary increase, a salary reduction compounds. So $1 million, $1.5 million salary reduction in 15-16 feels like a $2.2 million reduction this year, because it compounds because of the salary formula. So that's why the reduction is a smaller reduction in the year that we take it, but as it compounds out, you see where that salary reduction, that certificate, any staff, but that reduction really gets a bang for our buck. That's how we were able to go through this year, not only adding teachers back, which you did add teachers back, but we took the SERP. Remember, we took out a lot of high salaries. Last year, we took out we drew 25 employees. Of those, I think 18 or 19 were certificated, so those high salaries were gone. we came in with much lower salaries for that CERP, as well as, which it was a savings, as well as you were able to add some back, all on just on the reductions that we took last year. So,
Yeah, it does. So just to be clear, the projections that you're giving us for multiple years ahead include the reductions?
it includes the.
The 2.1 million
yes.
reduction? Okay, I just want to be clear.
The
So we're not working with a constant of today?
No.
It's as of after the reductions have been made?
After
Is that correct?
Right,
Thanks.
exactly. The multi-year projection you have in front of you, 17-18 has a certificated reduction of 2.184 million in it. You recall at first interim, I had talked about a $5 million reduction. Yes, the year materialized, but the reason why I talked about 5.0 million, because as soon as we get into 18-19, we're back in the same spot.
Right.
And so, yes, Mr. Spitz?
The general fund expenditures that you are projecting here for next year, 2017-18, and the following year, 2018-19, I would assume that those numbers do not include the operating costs of the technology plan, which, because the board hasn't yet approved them, but the last numbers I saw were, for those 2 years, over $3 million. And I just caution the board, because we've got a technology plan. We are spending between $6 and $7 million for the capital expenditure to bring us the hardware, the machinery, everything, and the infrastructure. But the board has not yet approved the operating costs for those years. And we have to realize that we're going to have to approve those. And so they're not in here because the board hasn't approved them, but we should look at this with the understanding there's going to be over 3 million more in here.
Yes, that's why I said that I'm glad that 800,000 is down in Fund 17, because I do believe that we may dip there, depending on how we end the year. In terms of we're currently forecasting an ending balance for the year of $3.8 million. If we are, we're kind of like, we're not on a freeze, we're on a frost. We do monitor all the expenditures right now. We're monitoring the replacement of positions, things like that. So we could end better. If we end better, then we won't dip into our reserves. But like you said, Mr. Spitz, not only do you have your technology purchase that we have not budgeted, we haven't budgeted anything for deferred maintenance, which we've talked about.
Right.
Right now, we've kicked the can down the road and came up with 1 million solutions for the turf, but we need to replace the turf on the high school campus. We need to do it. And that's gonna be $1 million or more, about 1.3. If there's gonna be any textbook adoptions, we don't have any large amount of money budgeted for textbooks right now.
And what about like just replenishment programs? So we talked about that high cost for technology, but those, they don't last forever. So it's looking 3 and 4 years down the road when we have to start replenishing every one of those one-to-one devices.
So,
as well as that staffing. Right now, we're hoping that BHEF picks up some of that staffing, but we have the tech assistance that we could pay for out of Measure E and the rollout. But it is too much to ask. I mean, I know that cost will have some staffing in it, because and it's needed. It's programming. And as I get further through the presentation, we have a lot of money, but we spend it. I tell everybody at the state, we spend it. They say, you have so much money. I say, we spend it like drunken sailors in port.
To carry this conversation a little further, if you look at the bottom line, the green one, total fund balance, as a percentage of our budget. And that includes, of course, Fund 17. If you look at the year 2019 and 20, which indicates by these numbers that we would have 6.5% of our budget in reserve. But if you figure those $3 million for operating costs of the tech plan and the $1 million in deferred maintenance, that's $4 million. We're down, if you look at those, we're down to virtually zero. And the only point that I want to make is that we can send these numbers into LACO, but LACO isn't going to buy this.
No.
They're not going to buy it.
Well, what will occur is, even though we have a positive certification, because we can show that we can pay our bills in the current year.
Right.
And we can pay them in the next year.
Right.
What will happen, though, is as we submit the new budget, when we submit the 17-18 budget, LACO will look at our ability to afford our salary increase, how we're spending our money, and they may or may not approve the budget. They may or may not approve the issuing of it, because you have to demonstrate that you can sustain what you're giving over the long term. And I've had we all know I was state administrator at school district when you were in receivership. I don't anticipate that we're going to go into receivership, but what we could get if we don't react.
LACO won't allow us to.
What we could get is a trustee, somebody, if you don't react, which is what we asked for and the board gave us by the $2.1 million cut. It's given us a year, which is, now, we're starting now with Dr. Breggy and cabinet and all of the things that we talked about in the prior budget sessions to get our house in order, to come up with a plan. If we don't come up with a plan, though, we won't like how it looks. It'll be quite embarrassing to have as much money as we have and not be able to spend within your means. So we have that year that I think is critical to all of our stakeholders, to that not top down, which we had to do this year, but that bottom up, that community engagement piece that I feel is I'm echoing Dr. Breggy, but it's very important so that the parents don't understand what, I know they don't understand it. School finance is complicated within itself.
Nor do our teaching staff.
Right. But it has, but these are real numbers. This is not fictitious. We have and as you can see, we can get through 17, 18 and still maintain pretty good reserves. We'll be coming to you with a board policy next board meeting. I met with the finance committee in conjunction with the school services report, and the minimum reserve policy that we're coming to you with is 17% reserves. That's the minimum. Even though the LAO recommends 22.5 or 25% reserves, the minimum we should dip down is 17%. And so, as you can see, if we don't do anything in next year, we'll be there. We will have dipped into below our rainy day fund.
I have a quick question. Thank you. I had mentioned many times about forensic accounting of the JPA. My first objective is to know what we net. I'd like to know what we net. I also would like a more open, frank discussion that the community hopefully can, I wouldn't say eavesdrop, but participate by watching and listening, that it's not a gift. It's a rental agreement. It's a contractual agreement where they use our facilities and they pay us. But within that number is a lot of expenses to us that we bear. It's overtime, it's staffing, it's security, it's janitorial, it's wear and tear, lights, utilities, toilet paper. You name it, it's there. I want to know what the real number of that 9 point whatever we get, it isn't quite 10, I'm told, that we actually get to keep.
I'll be bringing
and the
back
reason I'd like to know is because that's a very different discussion with the community and with the city. And I think the discussion anyway, the tone of the discussion, the undercurrent of the discussion has to change. We're not beggars getting a handout. It's not a gift. I've heard candidates running for council call it a gift. I've heard current council people refer to it in ways that you would think it's a gift or a handout. It is not. They cannot run a multitude of their city programs without our facilities, and frankly, we couldn't run our programming without the JPA. It is a symbiotic, wonderful relationship where we're both getting what we need. But see, when I look at the city, I know what they're getting because I understand, I see their schedule, I know what they're using, I know what they're getting. But when we have a contractual contractual relationship on our side, I don't know what we're netting. When can you begin to look into that so that we can have a more broad discussion about our budget?
As we've talked about this several board meetings, it's not that I personally couldn't do it if that's all I had to do.
No,
But there actually was a Senate bill, Senate Bill 1404, that was approved by the legislature last year. It's called the Civic Center Act. It allows you to what they call right-size your civic center fees. And many school districts have embarked upon that with a firm to help you do it. They told me that to do it, you need to designate. It's going to take us 2 weeks to do it, and you have to designate 2 people 8 hours a day to get us to get them all the data. But what you are allowed to include in your civic center fees by law now, SB 1404, not only your janitorial costs, security costs, you can include your depreciation costs, you include your utility costs, you base it on market variables. Our market variables, I talked about this at the Finance Committee. There's no space on the west side of Los Angeles. I mean, we've got the high school field is one of the most prime pieces of open space on the west side. And so all of those factors go into calculating your true civic center rate that you can charge now, given to you by the legislature. And so I have a company. When I was up in Sacramento for the Coalition of Adequate School Housing, I got the cards of several companies, and I'm asking for quotes so that we can get that number. They told me that it'll take about 2 weeks. 2 weeks to crunch all the numbers. They'll look at all of our utility
So we
bills.
could have that we could have it definitely by May.
You could have it definitely by May, maybe by the end of April.
Okay, so that's an important discussion, because if we find out that out of 9 point something, we're netting 5 million or 4 million, it's a very different JPA than if we're netting 8.
Yes, yeah.
But also, we would actually see what are these opportunities really worth on the open market? And I would always give a friendly discount to our city. I mean, we're a family. That's, a family discount. But I want to know what we're netting, and I hope the board would be proactive enough to make sure that, I've been asking for over a year. We should do it very quickly. I nagged for librarians for 7, but this, I think, maybe I can
So
get
Ms.
it.
Korbutov, at the last study session that you were absent
Okay,
at, we actually gave direction to do this.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, okay, so you
But
have your
yeah,
direction.
but again,
I
I
know
need to
you're
hire
overwhelmed.
somebody to help me to help do it.
Right.
I can't.
So then, I guess you and Dr. Breggy can make this a priority, because
It is
we
a
should have
priority.
financial clarity about what's going on with the JPA. Okay?
But in our finance committee to help, I don't know.
It's a
No?
full-time
No.
job.
Full-time?
I would prefer somebody that does this with schools, that way it's right, as well as to understand our other things. Pam, Ms. Johnson and I had talked about it before she jumped in to help us with facilities. She was going to help us with that calculation, as you recall, because there are things in right size, like you said, to figure out how much we're paying. We're going to right size the fees, figure out how much it really is worth, but also what we pay that we wouldn't have to pay if we didn't have the JPA.
Well, that's it.
Exactly. There are, the times that we're open, holidays. We have to bring on staff during holidays to keep the facilities open the fields, custodial, security, all of our classrooms that we have. So it's better if I have somebody that knows what they're doing, get it for you, and then you can have it in time for your continued liaison meetings.
I just wanted to add too that it's, what we're doing now and as evidenced by tonight, I mean, not only do we need to collect this information, but it needs to be in a format that's easy to read and really easy for the public to look at and understand. We can't keep having documents that people don't understand what they mean. We have a financial problem. We have to reach out and engage and educate our public, but it needs to be in a format where people can easily understand what the information is. So we do need to, I totally agree with you, it needs to be somebody that's done this before and then can help us. A lot of it, it's in the formatting of it, in the collection. So we can do that. We'll work on who we're going to be working with, and I will update the board on our progress.
Great.
More comment, not about JPA. I would like to ask you, LaTanya, do you know of any school districts that help their ed foundations maybe by sharing a consultant? I'm very appreciative of any and all volunteers. We're all, us on this right side of the dais are volunteers. And the BHF are wonderful people volunteering, but we're not hitting the big numbers. I've said many times over the years that people who live in Beverly Hills are actually giving large sums of money to City of Hope, Cedars, UCLA, USC, St. John's, other private schools. But I'm not sure they're being asked. I'm not sure they're being asked in the most productive way. So what I'm asking is, do you know of any school districts that have some sort of consulting apparatus or some person designated to work with the Ed Foundation? Maybe if we hire that communications person, maybe that person is the de facto consultant. But I do think the Ed Foundation would be well served if they could have more of a direct relationship with the school board, but we could work in a very collaborative, proactive way to get the message out to the community. Like, we're here waiting for some donations and for some naming opportunities, which people are giving all over the county of LA, but not right where they live necessarily.
I know
And the
that there-
Wallace-Annenberg is a perfect example. You walk around there, and if you just take pictures of all the names and we pick up the phone, we might do well. I mean, there's most everyone at the Wallace, I think on, what is it, Cannon Crescent, most of them are Beverly Hills residents. So I'm not putting blame anywhere. I'm very appreciative of whatever BHF can accomplish, and I commend them. But there must be a better way for us to work together and to go out into the community and raise money, and not just from parents who are getting bombarded with PTA requests and graduation requests, and they're inundated. I'm talking other people. Do you know of any sort of relationship?
I do, and I'll get that. I'll give you a template of how it happens in other school districts. I can report back to the board. I know that both Torrance and Manhattan Beach have people in their foundation that actually work in the district too. Now, I don't know if they split their time, but these are people that actually work in their district, but they also work for the foundation. So I don't know how that goes.
And
I'll
Manhattan
find out.
Beach, I think they average about $4 million a year.
They have a large foundation.
I think it's at least $4 million a year, right? I've heard even upwards of 5.
I know it's more than ours.
Yeah. I
always
just
look
think
across
that
the fence.
that's money we're leaving on the table, and I think that these are I'm not saying it doesn't negate the need to have a tighter budget, be leaner, I get that. I understand being judicious with spending. But I think that we're not looking at opportunities right under our nose to go meet the community with the help of BHEF. But I think we haven't really collaborated with them, and they're busy, we're busy, but maybe if we hired one person, maybe it is the communications person who has some background in nonprofits.
As well.
Yeah.
So your next slide is just your detail of the 17-18 reduction and where we're spending our money. I'm not going to focus on this. I just wanted, though, you to have the detail of how we were budgeting for next year and the multi-years. This has come up a few times. Eddie, I'm going to need that other slide next. This has come up a few times, and I wanted to just highlight it about you're going to have money. You're going to end better. It's going to be you've got more money than you said you had. And that has been the practice. I only went back to 11-12, but that green line is the money. That's the money that they didn't calculate when they did the budget, and they calculated the ending balance, and then once they closed the books, there was this, additional money. So in 11-12, there was 2.4 million additional. I'm sure that, I think that 11-12 was a year that they probably came for reductions. In 12-13, I believe that's the year that you all,
That's when we got about 4.5 million from the city.
from the city. Yeah, that was the year that I was here in 11-12. I left at the beginning of 12-13. But that 6.1 million feels, again, how do you believe somebody that you actually have budget difficulties if you end the year so much better? In 13-14, you ended the year about $1 million more than you anticipated in June. Again, that is calculating that ending fund balance that I told you is so important for us to calculate as we're building the next year's budget. The 14-15 and the 15-16, which I will refer to as the LT years, the years of LT, me, you ended the year at 337,000 more than you had, than we budgeted. Well under 5%, not even, we're not even at 5% of expenditures. I feel like that's a good target. In 15-16, we would have ended at 582,000, but we delayed the textbook purchase. That million was textbooks, so we dropped it out and we just carried it over right into expenditures the following year. So I'm saying that I feel very good about my Director of Fiscal Services abilities to hit the target of the ending balance. The only way that we would be off when we come to you in the next few months or if we received a windfall of revenue that we didn't know. If we got an apportionment, in late April from some property tax source that wasn't in our other certifications. So I don't think that there will be some money that is not rolled into our current projections. I included this sheet, and I sent a few of these sheets out to you last night, to the board, but the public, these sheets are behind your PowerPoint. This comes directly from LACO. They send us the annual financial data for all school districts where they let you know where you rank. We have the most money per ADA in Los Angeles County out of 48 school districts. $15,571. A lot of school districts would like to be in our position. We rank number 1 there. The next one. We also rank number 1 in lowest class size in Los Angeles County. The one thing that are in conversion of one another that are not compatible are high salaries and low class sizes. You can't afford both. And if you see where we are in grades 1, 2, 3, and this was as of 15-16, we're 18.6, and in grades 4 through 8, our average class size of 14.5. This comes directly from our student information services. We don't report this. They pull directly from our class rosters. That pulls from Aries, and it goes into the J90. So this is all certified data. Would you go all the way down to the bottom of this sheet? The average class size in Los Angeles County for grades 1 through 3 is 23.45. Grades 4 through 8 is 27.65, which is, again, this is where our money is. You can't have both. We have good money, and we have a lot of it, but again, reaching that target of even compatible salaries with our competitors, but having these type of class sizes, we can't do it. You just cannot afford it.
I just wanted to ask quickly, Does part of what contributes to the low class size include our specialized classes that may, for whatever reasons, have specific low number of students,
That's our average roster.
so you're not including anybody enrolled in special ed programs?
Well, special ed is part of, is on your rosters.
Right, so that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so
'cause then
this
that would-
includes your special ed.
That would be an indicator perhaps of why the averages are driven down maybe more in our district than
No, it
perhaps.
actually,
I just, are we comparing apples to apples is what I'm asking? Because it's shocking if we are.
so you have your special ed as part of your rosters.
Right.
And we have we don't have a push-in model, we have a pull-out model, which is very expensive. I think it was bargained, if I'm not mistaken, Yolanda. So so even though at 14.5, with them on that roster and you're that low, if they were pushed in, it would actually be lower. With your current, the way that we're currently,
Okay.
well, our current enrollment.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank
Right.
you.
Next one. So, all of these number one ones are the ones when I go to schools, to conferences, they always highlight Beverly Hills, and I'm sitting in the back like I'm Beverly Hills.
That is very true. I've been there. That happens. It's always Beverly Hills. They always highlight
It's
it.
always us. The average teacher salaries per ADA, we're high, $6,166.70. Again, it's not because our teachers are making that much money, it's because we have so many of them. And you see where we are next to our next, this is 15-16, because we're boosting our salaries too, remember? We're giving salary increases, so when we had talked about it in the school services report, this margin between us and our next district per ADA is growing because we're giving salary increases, but we're spending so much money per ADA. Again, I have to keep reiterating, that's why we're in this trouble. We just cannot afford what we're doing. As a percentage of current expenses, is 39.60%, is not as high as our total expenditures of teachers, but that's because we have a lot of money as well. I always talk to, one of the things that Dr. Tedford asked me about is why our percentage is so low. But it's because we have a lot of, our expenditure percentage is lower because we have other streams of revenue coming in. So it's not just, where a school district is LCFF, and that's their main source of income. We have property taxes, but we also have a large portion of the JPA money, the PTA money, that translate into expenses. So for all those trips, he's not here, Christian. When he just got back from New York, I mean, that New York is an expense that's offset by some other revenue coming in to match it, but that's why our expense percentages are always so much lower, because we have so much other money on top of our main source of money. Next one.
Thank you for the report.
You want me to finish?
Have you concluded?
Almost.
Go ahead.
You want me to hurry?
Yes.
Just to be fair, I wanted to include the other areas. The others, all other certificated staff, which were number 3, which is still not a great place to be. These are our counselors. These are your certificated administrators, but these are our out of classroom teachers, psychologists, speech pathologists, but these are also people who don't actually have a roster, are not included in that, and that's why that's so high. Next one, quickly, since I have to hurry. Classified. So even our classified is a larger percentage. To be in that top 4, like I said, we do have a lot of money. We're not overpaid. We're getting there. I mean, we're not overpaid. We're not in the high salaries, but as a percentage of ADA, this still is indicative of a lot of staff. Now, in the classified areas, we're the same size school district that we always were. We haven't changed any square footage. If anything, we've added square footage that we have to clean and maintain. But again, this number's, when I saw this number, I'm like, wow, I would have thought our classified amount would be, per ADA would have been lower because our salaries are not that high, but these are bodies. That's what is taking up, making this number the number 4 spot in Los Angeles County. And then you can go past, the last one, are benefits. There too, we spend, we don't have, you've heard staff talk about it, I mean, I talk about it, the amount of money out of pocket that we spend for our health benefits. If you have a family, I think it's about, out of my check, it's about $1,200 a month. But as a percentage of ADA, we're at number 9 in Los Angeles County. Again, it's because we have so many bodies in this district compared to the number of students that we have. So it's, even though I'm not an educator and I don't have children in the district, my children are grown, and I know it's painful, we do have to right size. If you don't, I mean, you actually are a target. We are a target because when they see budgets that have those kind of deficits and they look at the kind of income we're spending per ADA, you get the big brother of LACO and CDE coming down on you much harder than they would another district that is struggling. We shouldn't have to be struggling like this. Are there any questions?
Colleagues?
I need to make a motion, I assume, to approve the 16-17 second interim report.
You do.
Yes, sir.
I just did it.
So we have a motion to approve the second interim
I'll second.
budget. Motion by Mr. Margot, second by Mrs. Hacker. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Pardon? Yes. Colleagues, since we started holding our meetings at 5 o'clock, as a courtesy to our stakeholders, we like to open the meeting once again for public comment as soon to 7 o'clock as we can, and it's a little past that, but is there anybody here who wishes to make a public comment at this time? Would you please come forward? Give us your name, sir.
Greg Bell.
Hello, Greg.
Hello, Mel. How are you? Good to
Great.
see you. Board members. I happened to come to the meeting 2 weeks ago and listened to the presentation about Horace Mann. And I know you guys are dealing with a lot in terms of this budget situation, and it's a very challenging and difficult situation. But so is the construction situation, seemingly, what's going on at Horace Mann in terms of how that money is also being spent and the budget situation there. I heard that we're $5 million over budget in that building, or in that process. Someone, I think it might have been you, as a matter of fact, were you the speaker last week? I thought your presentation was harsh and cold, personally, and very indifferent in terms of the amount of money that we were over budget, in terms of how that's being managed. And I just want to say that I really feel like better oversight is needed overall holistically in our district. And Dr. Breggy, you have a monumental task in front of you. I don't know you, but you have a big task in front of you. You're coming into quite a situation here in terms of this budget situation and the construction situation. And how that was presented last week just really irritated me in terms of the way the money seems to be going out without controls. And here now we're trying to cut and put controls in place. Well, what about that? Someone's mentioned potential insolvency tonight, spending like a drunken sailor, and needing more parental engagement. Well, what parent is going to want to be engaged under terms like that, where we have a budget that's out of control and we're cutting staff and we need more money? I don't know of very many that are interested in contributing to a campaign like that. What they would be interested in my opinion, is a situation where our district gets back to the prominence that it should be at, where there is a public relations campaign that brings us back to where we were. I'm a student of this district and a graduate of this district, and I'm speaking tomorrow at Career Day as well. But these are the kind of things that I think our community will be motivated by. Not infighting, not other situations, ingratiating themselves, or whatever they may be. Town halls, coffees, going straight to the community, inviting the community to be engaged in the process is what's needed here. Not during elections only, but during the regular season as well. And one last thought is this district does have assets. It has underappreciated, undeveloped assets. I speak specifically about the building you're housed in. And I have some creative ideas, and I think we need creative ideas on what to do. There's a big trend right now in real estate development, which I'm involved with professionally, about public partnerships, city and school districts, cities and private developers getting together to do things that are for the common benefit of the community in terms of providing much needed housing that is essentially unaffordable for a lot of people in this area and otherwise. And I would look forward to discussions on those topics as well, as in a way of making our assets and using our assets in a way that I think can generate some value for our city, and instead of looking at ways to run cash registers or cut costs. So thank you for your time today, everybody.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? The hearing, public comment period is closed, and we are at planning and facilities. We have items 11A, B, C, and D. And E, F, and G.
Mr. Spitz, can I ask if my colleagues need any specific items? If they have questions, I will, on one item?
Yeah.
Which one, Ms. Kovertoff?
The one on the repair of the stairs, Harry H. Joe Construction F.
Okay, so I'm going to leave that one out. Does anybody else have any specific questions on items? No. Okay, so let me make a grand motion then.
Yes.
To approve item 11A, change order number 9 with AI Resources. Item number 11B, acceptance of Horseman low voltage cabling and authorization to file a notice of completion. Item 11C, approval to negotiate and execute purchase of furnishings for Horseman Building A. D, acceptance of El Rodeo miscellaneous asphalt paving project. E, approval of amendment number 1 to Layton. G, approval of amendment number 2 to Layton. And H, ratification of amendment 1 to King Office Services.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Margot, second by Mr. Goldstein. Any discussion?
No, I just want to thank staff for getting back to me on my questions on those 2 items, so I appreciate it. Whoever.
All in
managed
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And you had one that was pulled?
I did.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve item 11F, ratification of the agreement, number 1516-041 for the repair of stairs at the high school.
Thank you. Oh, I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I can discuss this. When I saw this months ago, I believe, Pam, I don't know if you were on board then, you could have just gotten on board. It was a lot of money for stairs. It was a large bill for the steps. It was not a permanent fix. I was told it was sort of a interim fix. I questioned the money, I questioned the price, and then I found out, at the time, I asked, they didn't have a license. They didn't have a license to contract. I couldn't find a contractor's license at that time. Okay. Subsequently, I asked LaTanya, and she actually had a problem with the two invoicing. The one I saw didn't have a contractor's number. The one she saw had one, but they didn't connect. The name, the price, nothing jived. So LaTanya, do you have any more information on this? This was like maybe 3-4 weeks ago I asked you about this.
Yes, and I'll let Pam speak after I speak. On this particular contract, I actually conducted a mini fraud investigation, mini internal controls. The payment warrant was submitted to us, to LACO, and LACO rejected it. It had too many inconsistencies. The paperwork was, they rejected it for payment. And my accounts payable person brought it over to me, and I started flipping through it, and what was submitted to LACO was a mishmash of just really bad record keeping, and I can't say it any other way.
Submitted it. Is that Totem's responsibility?
I don't know.
Or Barbara Beach, or, I don't want to name names, but I'm trying to understand, because to be honest, this isn't the first time that
No.
LACO has returned things because they're all just a jumble.
So, yeah, now that part, I mean, and that's, I sent it back, because the first thing I wanted to do is see if this was a real bill, because at a certain point, that we had exhibits that had the same amount of money, but different names on it. The exhibits were kind of pasted together wrong. What came to the board was the $21,684 number, but the invoice was less. It was $16,000, and it was a contracted amount. The notice of completion that was again, it was just a really mishmash of paperwork. So I wrote down. I mean, like I said, I made some calls. And then I gave it to Pam Johnson. I said, before you submit this, I need answers on all of these things. Their license, do they exist? I want you to talk to the controller, make sure this is a real invoice from a real company. Who did it? I mean, because again, from what was submitted to me, I couldn't tell what this was at that point, because even though you all approved Harry Joff for the stairs, what was submitted for the payment was the electrical work at the interim housing. And so, and again, it wasn't the first time. It was, this would have, I mean, I don't get involved in payments that often, so when I get involved, that means that it's not in a good place. So I'll let Mrs. Johnson speak, because she sent me, she did satisfy all of my questions, and did.
I want to know how that happens, because I have to tell you, I wouldn't pay that bill in my business. I manage 23 buildings, commercial buildings downtown. I couldn't submit that to a landlord. I mean, so I'm just trying to understand why this keeps happening. Even once is too many.
Before she goes explain, once is too many. You want to know, and I'll tell you why, because that means that LACO thinks that we're not handling our business well. When we're submitting.
Tanya, how many other times have things been turned back?
They get turned back quite a bit, but when the paperwork is so, like I said, I've gotten involved with 3 or 4 of them.
And
where
they're
I've had-
just as screwed up as this?
Well, my head, you know, I hyperventilate, because I'm like, what is this, and why was it submitted like this, and what are these contracts? Because of keeping, I mean, it's poor contract this was poor contract management. The other ones were poor. You have to manage those contracts. Even you have multiple contracts for multiple locations, you have to manage them that way. And
So I'm asking
Pam and I are in
you,
the same.
so ultimately, contract management, this is the sub hired these people? The general contractor hired these people? Totem, who hired these people? Why are these invoices being submitted like this?
Okay.
Your
my
turn.
Okay. It was a sloppy package that went to LACO, that's true. How it got sloppy has a different explanation. So let me just start at the beginning. The the stairs need repair. It's a few days before school starts. It's, M&O does not have the people to do it. They could have done it for much less money, but they couldn't do it.
Pam,
Over the
I
weekend.
want to correct you.
Okay.
Those stairs could have been fixed by M&O. They have people to do that for a fraction of the price. They weren't asked. As usual, a lack of communication. That's why
I'm
that
not
price
aware of it.
caught my eye. Well, you
Okay.
weren't around. You had just arrived in July.
Ms. Korbachov, if I remember correctly, this was a huge time constraint. It wasn't that they couldn't do it, they couldn't do it in time.
It was over a weekend.
That's not how I remember it.
These stairs have been bad for years. They could have been asked 5 months prior and
Right,
been
but
fixed.
what had happened
Everything
is,
is
what
a
had
dollar
happened though.
short and a day late.
Ms. Korbachov, what happened is when the portables went in and they were going to be opened, it was, I believe it was the administration that came to us at some point and said the egress to getting down to the field was faulty and we had to take care of it. And they had not counted on that. That's why it became a last-minute item. I'm looking back at the original contract. My question is, was the work completed? I
The work
assume,
was
yes, it was,
completed.
because I've traversed those stairs.
Right.
And the amount hasn't changed from the original contract.
It's gone down. So it was a not-to-exceed amount of
Right.
21,000, so that's why the original contract said 21,000.
Right.
It was done for 16,008 something. The confusion over the package that went to LACO, as close as I could get to this forensically, is that, you know, we have a lot of invoices that go down, a lot of packages all the time. And notices of completion for 8 projects went down on the same transmittal. Whether they were mixed up before they went down, whether they got separated somehow in all the hands that touched them, but there is an explanation for each of the things that LaTanya found. And what I wanted to make sure was that the work was done, and that we can, the only reason you have it tonight is you've already accepted the project as complete. But because it was rushed through, it was never ratified. So I'm bringing it back and saying, this needs to be ratified so that
I'm
we can
glad
pay
you're
it.
bringing it back because it gave me a chance to say to you and the whole country out there listening, the 5 people, that there's a problem when packages are going in sloppy. Okay, there is a problem because that's a symptom of a bigger problem. There's some lack of control or planning or management.
But many times.
So
when
I'm
they-
not pointing fingers.
I
I'm just
understand.
saying there is a problem. And I don't know
Yeah.
where the problem is, and I'm not venturing a guess, Pam. But I'm just saying that there is something disturbing when I actually looked at those invoices, and there was no way to make heads or tail that it looked crazy.
Yes, it was
How
a
could someone in
difficult
their right
package.
mind submit that to LACO? It
Well-
makes us look completely incompetent.
It does, and one of the things that you'll see that Pam and I have talked about are, as we talk about revamping facilities, is getting staff in there that work for us, that are my staff or whomever, because this, like I said, if this were one of my staff members, this it would not be pretty.
I don't think the business office should be separated from this anymore, and that was a huge mistake brought on by someone who used to work here, who wanted it bifurcated, but it is all the money's ultimately passing through your office. You should have your hand on these invoices in some capacity.
And they do.
Can I jump back to the item just real quickly? If it is a not to exceed rate and then they've come in lower, is there any way to indicate that on the transmittal? Because I can't find any indication of the 16,000 that you mentioned.
For some reason, I was able to see that somewhere.
It was on the notice of completion.
I did read
think
that. I did see that it
right.
it came in lower than the amount to exceed.
And there are other ways we could have handled it if it had been in real time. We would have come back and reduced the amount of the contract, so then LACO would have seen it, because LACO's just looking at, well, at 16,000, you contracted for 21,000.
Yeah.
And we're saying, you know, it was not to exceed.
Even a different name. Everything was different.
Yeah, if you would like, I would be pleased to share with the board the information that I gave to Latanya.
I actually have it up.
I have it up,
Mhm.
because it deals with every single step, every single step and how it happened and what could have
Pam,
happened.
I appreciate your investigations, and I'm grateful for the positive feedback and news you got from your investigations. My point remains, this is not the first completely crazy package sent into LACO, and unless there's some controls put in, it's not going to be the last.
Well, and many times I also will tell you that facilities packages are returned because of missing components, and LACO is the process is onerous. And we are getting better and better, and I could tell you that our new person in facilities is amazing. She's caught on. I actually feel like we're catching up with our invoicing and, yeah, so, and with, you know.
That's good
and-
news.
And Tim Millett has, changed
Well, yeah,
the whole world too, so.
I think, again, it is, and I'm not saying that this won't be the last one, but as we, again, revamp, Tim is more meticulous in paperwork. He documents everything. Pam documents everything. Now that you have me as, pseudo in charge of making sure, because before, you had a chief that was signing it, and if he signed it, I'm like, okay, well, they've done everything, and I'm not blaming him.
But you're saying that in theory, the chief is turning in that package because he's
Well,
signing off on it.
Right, if you have a chief that's the same level as me, he's supposed to be checking for the
But
same
does he
thing.
generate that package? Does that chief generate that package? I'm trying to ask you, who generates that paper?
It comes out of that division, so it doesn't matter who generates it. If whoever is in charge of that department or that division is responsible for the generation of it. If it came out of my department, if it was something that we were doing, I'm ultimately responsible for not only what my staff gives you, but what the people that I hire give you. If it were consultants, whoever, it is under my purview. And so they know, again, the main issue I wanted to make sure is that it wasn't fraud, that there was that Harry Jaw did the work, Harry Jaw existed, that they had a contractor's license, that, that we weren't kind of double paying somebody or anything like that. That was not the case. Again, it was just, when the bigger we get, and we're only doing, these little, Horace Mann is a tiny project. I mean, the bigger you get, as you get into the high school, and Arrowed at the same time, good contract management, good, and knowledgeable staff that actually reports to us is critical. Or not, we'll end up with, this would be unrecognizable.
I wanted to ask one quick question. Is there any way, or will there be a point, because it says financial impact on the bottom of the transmittal, and it still maintains that it's a not to exceed of 21. Is there a way for that to reflect perhaps in the minutes of the meeting, that reflect the actual amount? Not here, but in the minutes of the meeting, that will approve the contract based on this actual amount that was billed. I just want that to be on record.
Since we talked about it,
Right.
great, Mike.
I mean, you could add an addendum that the actual amount paid to them was $16,943.
Okay.
Yes,
And-
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what's on the, what will
Perfect.
be on the.
Thank you. Now it's on the record.
Thank you for that discussion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. And that brings us to, and not the end, communication from board members. Any,
I'll be quick, because I know Mr. Schwartz wants to go to senior, junior day. But real quick, I just want to wish our robotics team well. They're going out to Ventura for the regionals this week, so I want to wish them well. And also next week, the academic decathlon team. Where are you going to be next week? In Sacramento, making us proud. So good luck to you and your team. Thank you. Do well.
thank you. Mr. Morgan?
Quick happy birthday to my sister. Thank you. And happy Pi Day.
Mrs. Hackman?
I just wanted to say that I attended the Spelling Bee theater production on Saturday. Mr. Margot was great. He was a star. He started. It was fun. It was amazing. And thank you to everyone involved. And to the parents who came here today and the teachers. You know, these are tough times, and we try to make the best decisions. There are no good decisions here. You know, it's a situation that we have to address in the long term. And we're all very much, I think, trying to do our very best. So be patient and have a lot of patience with us in the next few months. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Mel for reminding us about Coach Stevens. I received quite a few texts after you mentioned Coach Stevens, where people included pictures with them around her. And so I just wanted to say thank you for mentioning that. And the other thing I wanted to say is they don't have to be tough times. I hope we'll find a way. I hope we did the one campaign many years ago. Maybe we could do the two campaign, not raise 1 million. We came up with 700,000. Maybe we try to have a goal of 2 million. I, for one, pledge to work very hard. If some families or parents want to step up, and BHUSD, I think the board would be more than willing to brainstorm and work on fundraising and make it institutional, where we don't just come out for a crisis, but we have an annual culture of significant giving among the community. I appreciate what Mr. Bell said. It's very mindful to me that we're over budget. I'm concerned about it as well. I thank him for his community involvement. I thank all the parents, teachers, and especially these wonderful children who came to speak to us. I want to wish everyone a happy St. Patty's Day, and to my daughter, who will have her 28th birthday that day.
Oh, wonderful. I want to acknowledge something important here, and that is the BHEA's award titled WHO, the WHO Award that the BHEA gives annually, and this year it was awarded to Lisa Dickens, who teaches regular and AP chemistry and physics in the high school. And the thing that I want to say is that I have always felt that awards from your peers are the best awards, the most meaningful awards. So congratulations to her. Superintendent?
No report.
All right. The next regular meetings of the board will be on Tuesday, March 18, and Tuesday, April 11, and with that, we are adjourned.